Hello, in this video we are going to look at a couple string manipulation techniques. Now this is a really interesting topic and we could spend a lot of time looking at it, but really I just want to kind of introduce you to some basic string manipulation techniques. And I call these string construction, oh wrong language, string construction, and we're going to look at something called string collapsing. So with string construction, what that means is, if you remember, if I have a word, if I make a variable word, I can say something like Phil Lockhart. Okay, so there's a name. And string construction, I can do it like this, but I could also do something like, first name equals Phil, last name equals Lockhart. And then if I take this, I could say full name equals Phil. Oops, what am I doing here? F name plus, and now I'm going to have to introduce the space manually, plus last name. So this is an example of string construction. It's simply taking strings and adding them together using concatenation, concatenation is a fancy way of saying adding strings. Now we can do some interesting things here, but the key thing is we have to know the state of the string and to make some assumptions. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make a variable called full name reverse. And so basically what it's going to be is it's going to be the last name space the first name. Now, obviously, I could do this. I could say last name plus first name. But again, that's assuming that we already have those separately. What would happen if all I had here was this word one, which is the name? And what I know here is that every string has one space only. That is a rule. That is something that I know and I'm going to assume about my data. So what I know then is that if they have a single space, what I can do is I can locate the space and then use substring to break apart first and last name. And this is an example of where that instance method index is so useful. So if I say locate word1 dot index, and I'm going to locate the index of a space. And actually, instead of index, I'm going to use the find method, because what the find method does, remember, is if it can't find it, it returns a -1, whereas the index method will actually throw you an error, which will crash your program. You'll have to manage that error. So find is nice because it's not going to crash our program. We'll just get -1 if there's a problem. Now, remember, I made the assumption that all of our words have a single space in them. So if I print here this LOC, right? If we come over here and I say Python 3, strings, string5.py, notice how I get a 4. And let's understand this. The reason I get a 4 is because it says, okay, I'm using word 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is the index of that space. So now what I can do is I can use that index to split this string up. So I'm going to say full name. Well, let's do this. I'm going to use the same variables L name and first name. So first name. Well, what do I know? Well, I know that the first name is always going to be the first thing here. So it doesn't matter if it's Phil Lockhart or Paul Miskew or whatever the name might be. It's always going to be index 0. That's going to be the first index of where it starts. So I'm going to say word1 at 0. And now, what is it that I want to go to? Remember, this is substring, so this is inclusive, exclusive, and it turns out I can take that location variable. So now, if I print fname, notice I get Phil. Because what I've done is I've used the location of the space to find out where to grab that. So now, well, what about last name? Well, the last name is going to be word1. And now, again, remember, with substring, it's inclusive, exclusive. So if I look, we know that the location of the space is at index 4. So I want to actually start at index 5. Now, I could say 5, and now I could use the shorthand Python notation like this. But let's do len of word1 just to be consistent here. And if I print lname, Now I get the 2, but I hope you're kind of stopping here and saying, well, wait a second, what happens if it's Philip Lockhart, not Phil? Well, it's no longer 5 now. So again, what we want to use is we want to use this location that we've generated of the index of the space. So we're going to take the location, but remember it's inclusive exclusive. I don't want the space. I want to start at the L. So it's going to be location plus 1. And I get Phil, and I get Lockhart. So now what I can do is I can say full name equals L name plus space plus F name. And this is an example of some basic string manipulation that's really, oh, let's print that out, which is really nice to have under your belt. Full name. There we go. So I print that, there it is. So now we flip the name around. Beautiful. Now, I'm actually going to stop here because I think this is 5 minutes. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about string collapsing, which is a really nice technique to really quickly remove things from a string. You can add strings using concatenation, but you can't actually use the subtraction symbol in the same way. And so string collapsing is a really nice way to use an instance method to shrink the size of a string. I hope this video helped. Have a wonderful day.